Are you warm? Are you real? Mona Lisa. Or just
Welcome, friends. Today we're going to talk about how the Renaissance was a giant, beautiful hot mess. So imagine a world where geniuses were painting the Sistine Chapel while their neighbors treated illnesses with moldy potatoes and beetle paste. That's what we have here. The Renaissance wasn't just the age of enlightenment. It was a full-blown, chaotic carnival where brilliance and stupidity danced hand in hand through the cobblestone streets. Every great leap forward had a matching clumsy booth that made humanity look like it was trying very hard and failing hilariously to evolve. Behind every breathtaking painting or stunning scientific discovery, someone was probably hiring a personal wizard, or hoarding rhubarb like it was gold, or insisting that wearing velvet could destabilize society. It was the Wild West, just with fancier hats, sharper swords, and slightly less personal hygiene. There were rules, but only if you were rich enough to ignore them, or smart enough to find the loopholes and bribe your way through history. If you think the Renaissance was just pretty paintings and scholarly debates, buckle up. You're about to find out it was also a fever dream full of fake hermits, musical warfare, ghost hair wigs, and portable toilets that were treated like national treasures. 1. People used to fake being hermits for rich families. So wealthy estate owners decided that nothing completed a picturesque garden like a filthy, wild-haired man pretending to live in their midst in eternal wisdom. Ornamental hermits became the ultimate luxury accessory, paid handsomely to dress in rags, spout random philosophy, and basically LARP as medieval cave dwellers on command. These human lawn ornaments were sometimes given elaborate props like broken teapots or rotted books to make their solitude even more authentic. Some hermits were under contract to never bathe, cut their hair, or speak to visitors, living decorations for the sake of aesthetic clout. When a rich guest strolled the grounds and stumbled upon a dirty man whispering vaguely about, say, mortality under a fake druidic shine, it was spontaneous. It was theater. It was Instagram influencers, really, centuries before Instagram, but with way more dirt, sadness, and splinters. 2. Doctors prescribed bejeweled potatoes for illness. If you got sick during the Renaissance, the local doctor might not prescribe rest or herbal teas. Instead, you'd be told to carry a gem-studded potato under your clothes, like a diseased little treasure. It was believed that the magnetic powers of both precious stones and certain vegetables could suck illness out of your body simply by proximity alone. Wealthy patients often commissioned velvet-lined pouches to cradle their healing spuds, treating them like life-saving accessories while they coughed up blood in public markets. Poorer folks might try to bedazzle regular potatoes with shards of broken glass or foil just to imitate the aristocracy's glittering disease protection. There was no actual medical proof behind any of this at all. But Renaissance logic operated on a weird faith in the mystical properties of shiny, random objects. Your best hope against the Black Death might have been a moldy tuber that smelled like compost inside your shirt. 3. Da Vinci designed a robot knight, and it actually worked. Leonardo da Vinci wasn't just sketching pretty paintings like the Mona Lisa or daydreaming about flying. He was building mechanical knights that could move, sit, and raise their visored heads like something straight out of a steampunk fever dream. Powered by a complex system of pulleys, gears, and cranks, these metal warriors were the first serious attempt at humanoid robotics. Da Vinci's robot could independently lift his arms, turn its head, and even sit upright. An absolute mind melter for the audience still arguing about whether or not tomatoes were evil. The knight wasn't theoretical either. There's strong evidence it was actually built and demonstrated during one of his spectacular court entertainments. Imagine being a Renaissance noble, casually sipping your poisoned wine, only to see a mechanical soldier clicking and whirring across the hall like a possessed suit of armor. It's no wonder people were convinced magic and science were very much the same thing. 4. Sumptuary laws told you what colors you could wear. So, in Renaissance City, looking too fashionable could literally land you in jail. Sumptuary laws regulated who could wear certain fabrics, styles, and especially colors, keeping social classes visibly separate, even without a conversation. Crimson, deep purple, no, not that deep purple, and golden silks were restricted to the highest elites, while commoners were struck in drab browns, grays, and shamefully practical materials like coarse wool. Getting caught wearing illegal fabric could lead to fines, public humiliation, or even imprisonment. Basically, medieval fashion policing on steroids. The fear wasn't that poor would spend too much on clothes. It was the appearances would blur the rigid caste lines that held society together. Imagine being tackled by city guards because your belt was just a little too snazzy. Nothing says Renaissance values like violently enforcing who is allowed to sparkle. 5. Mercenaries had their own fight clubs to show off. Renaissance mercenaries, especially the swaggering German Landsknechts, turned battlefield readiness into full-blown, glittering blood sport. These professional soldiers competed in brutal, chaotic duels called Fektschulen, often staged in city squares for the entertainment and probably terror of the general public. Landsknechts fought in wild costumes with absurdly slashed sleeves, massive plumes, and gold thread embroidery, looking like a cross between a parade float and a blender full of knives. The unofficial fight clubs didn't just settle personal beefs amongst each other, they served as talent showcases for generals to hire the next wave of flashy killers. Dueling wasn't just violence, it was performance art. A Renaissance mercenary didn't just want to beat you, he wanted to outdress you, outpose you, and outstab you with maximum flamboyance. Nothing said professional soldier at the time like pirouetting through a sword fight and $10,000 worth of velvet and feathers. 6. People thought rhubarb was more valuable than gold. Listen, I like strawberry rhubarb pie as much as the next guy, but this is ridiculous. Forget gold bars. In the 16th century, powdered rhubarb from China was worth more by weight than the purest gold. Renaissance doctors believed it could purge the body of toxins, balance the humors, and basically fix anything short of death itself. Entire smuggling operations sprang up around rhubarb, treating it like liquid cash for the apothecary elite. Pirates raided ships for it, Merchants bribed officials to sneak it across borders, and desperate nobles paid absurd fortunes for small, crumbling pouches of the sacred powder. The irony? Most Renaissance Europeans had no idea how rhubarb was supposed to work, or even which part of the plant was safe to use. They just assumed that if it cost as much as a castle, it had to be magical. In reality, it usually just gave you horrifying diarrhea. 7. So, speaking of diarrhea, toilet chairs were a major status symbol. While peasants squatted over muddy holes, wealthy Renaissance elites traveled with ornate, hand-carved portable toilets that doubled as bragging rights. These lavish, close stools were upholstered, gilded, and sometimes encrusted with jewels, making bathroom bakes feel like royal coronations. High-ranking nobles treated the toilet chairs like thrones in every sense. Some even held formal ceremonies to unveil a newly commissioned commode, inviting guests to marvel at the craftsmanship and whisper about the owner's exquisite taste in bodily functions. The fancier the toilet, the more important the owner, and heaven help you if you were caught using a basic stool like a peasant. In a world obsessed with appearances, even your morning constitutional had to be presented like it deserved a standing ovation. 8. Wigs were often made of the dead. Hairpieces were the height of fashion in the Renaissance, but sourcing enough human hair to feed the trend led to truly horrifying practices. Dealers harvested hair from corpses, often plague victims, and passed it off to desperate wig makers who didn't ask too many questions. Buying a wig wasn't just about vanity. It was a gamble with lice, fleas, and possibly ancient curses. Aristocrats preened over elaborate hairdos, blissfully unaware that the glamorous waves on their heads might have once belonged to a prisoner, a beggar, or someone who died screaming. The most expensive wigs were freshly cut from living donors, but those willing to pay less often got what had been scraped from the charnel house floor. Looking fashionable in the Renaissance sometimes meant wearing death like a particularly stylish hat. 9. Musical instruments were weapons of war. In Renaissance battles, instruments weren't just for stirring the troops. They were weaponized to psychologically obliterate the enemy. Drums, horns, massive war pipes created deafening walls of noise designed to rattle brains and scramble formations before swords were ever even drawn. Some armies specifically recruited musicians, whose job was to blow out eardrums and drown morale under sonic chaos. Certain trumpeters and drummers were feared almost as much as cavalry units, weaponizing rhythm into kind of primitive psychological warfare. Imagine standing on the battlefield, armor rattling as an entire horizon explodes into thunderous, chaotic howling. Before you even saw the enemy's faces, you were already deaf, dizzy, and probably halfway convinced the gods themselves wanted you dead. 10. Venice had a secret spy mailbox called the Lion's Mouth. Venetian citizens lived under a shadow network of anonymous accusations, thanks to stone mailboxes called Baci di Leone, mouths of the lion. Shaped like grimacing lion heads, these slots let you rat out your neighbors by slipping in secret notes, accusing them of treason, tax evasion, or basically anything you didn't like. No proof was required, just petty rage and a steady hand. The secret police combed through these complaints daily, and some led to public trials, exile, torture, or even execution, all based on gossip that might have been scrawled during a drunken argument. Venice ran on paranoia as much as commerce. Every smile could hide a dagger, and every careless word could end you with chained in a moldy prison cell beneath a bridge that tourists would one day photograph without ever knowing what horrors lay below. The Renaissance was a giant, beautiful hot mess. The final thoughts. The Renaissance wasn't just an era of invention. It was an era of improvisation, blundering, and chaos dressed up in silk and philosophy. Humanity stumbled into brilliance by accident as often as by design, usually while covered in plague boils or weighed down enough velvet to sink a gondola. Behind every monument, painting, and discovery was a parade of absurdity. Fake hermits paid to mumble in gardens, rhubarb smugglers risking death for digestion aid, dueling peacocks in doublets slashing each other to shreds. The Renaissance was the ultimate contradiction, a time when humanity was at its best and its dumbest simultaneously. And honestly, that's really what makes it magical. Perfection's boring. Give me a world of sonic battle drums, toilet parades, and robot knights any day of the week. The Renaissance was an absolute disaster. A beautiful, brilliant, utterly ridiculous disaster. And we're all better for it.